So hello, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to 2023, the first video of the year. And we're going to be looking at the control pad on ACC. I'm just going to start this little video in the background. I've literally just been out. I think I've ran 5 laps in the Porsche at Monza, and this is where we're going to be doing a little bit of a test. Through the Christmas period, a guy called Mark, I think it's Duvalier from Liverpool, got in touch, or he left a comment on the Facebook group that he was kind of getting a bit disheartened with the game itself, and is there anyone that could give him any tips where to approach the game from, and I left him a little message saying when I was sort of back from working away, I've been working away all Christmas, I'd be quite happy just to sit down with him, have a look where he's struggling with the game and see if there's anything that could really stand out. And I've got to be honest, I was really looking forward to doing this like little driving lesson or driving session or coaching session. Anyway, we arranged the date just a couple of days ago and put aside a little bit of time in the evening, and we had a good chat, really nice chat, really good to meet you, Mark. And I sort of sat in the car and watched him do the first lap, and it kind of dawned on me. I asked the question, what wheel are you using? And he said to me, he says, "No mate, I'm using a control pad." And that's my Scouse accent. Anyway, I thought, oh my god, where do I go from here? How do I try and be on the same wavelength really as someone that's using a control pad? Obviously, a lot of you will know that I'm using all the Fanatec equipment, the 2.5 base and the McLaren GT3 rim, and it's perfect within this game, it really is. And I do just apologise for my voice. I've still made up with cold since well before Christmas, really struggling to shake it. Thankfully it's not COVID, but hopefully I'll get rid of it soon. But yeah, coming back to, obviously I'm using the wheel and he's using the control pad, and there's so many differences when it comes to setting the car up. At least with I can actually feel what the car is doing. I can understand why it's understeering because I get that feeling through the wheel. I can sort of sense if it's bouncing too much because I feel that through the wheel again. I really wasn't sure if I could help Mark, and I think through the session, I think we ran a number of laps, and he sat in the car and watched me run the lap, and there were areas, very key areas, where he was struggling under braking. He was very late on the brake, especially coming into the chicanes and turn 1, and he was kind of losing a lot of time just through missing his braking markers. The Lesmos are very tricky, obviously using a control pad, you're braking, you're turning, and there is a lot of key issues in this game using a control pad, where if you haven't got the fidelity with the control pad, it really is tough to be like at 100% braking and turning at the same time. Obviously the ABS will kick in to some degree, but I sort of tried using the control pad to see where he was coming from, to understand what was wrong with the control settings, and I guess just to try and get the game playable. And after a number of hours testing yesterday, I feel like I've got the game to a point where I actually enjoyed running an online race last night, as much as I didn't win and there was a little bit of contact, should I say. It is a very different game trying to play this game on a control pad, but without further ado, I've set a lap in the Porsche using my wheel and pedals. It's not the best lap in the world, there's certainly areas where it could have been better, but I'll put the lap up so that you can see the lap.
done, mate. Yours all the best.
Let's see what the lap time was that I did. I think it's a 1:48 point. Let's return to the garage at 1:49.8. Not the best lap in the world. So now we're going to come into the setup, and we're going to change this setup, and we're going to use the control pad. So what do I need to be looking at to change when I'm using a control pad? Well, the camber's not going to be an issue. Still going to use the same amount of camber. You could probably run more caster, because the more caster you run, the heavier the wheel gets. And obviously if you're not using a wheel and you're using a control pad, you're not going to make any difference to how heavy the steering is, but you're going to get all the benefits of a higher caster. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to leave the caster where it is. Traction control then, I was running 8 previously, and I was running I think 3 on the ABS. Now under braking, you sort of squeeze the trigger and you're always braking at 100%. Well, I found that when you were coming into the last part of the braking zone, it really was tending to lock the wheels during that last phase. Unless you can really feel that toggle switch and ease off the braking in the last section, it is very hard to stop that from happening. Still brake discs too, I think they work better in the Porsche here. Another thing to consider is the steering ratio, because as you go like from centre to edge, the steering ratio, if we make it a bit wider, it makes the steering a little bit smoother. So always go for a higher steering ratio. Dampers and everything is the same. I think I'm running a tiny bit less ride height at the rear, because the car seems to slide around so much. You're throwing the car into corners much more, because you can't be as accurate with the wheel. You tend to be all or nothing sometimes throwing the car in. So that's the only subtle changes to the setup. So we'll go to the options menu and we're going to move to the control pad. Now when we move to the control pad, it changes the inputs for so I'm going to shift up with the A button, I'm going to shift down with my X button. So down with the X button, and those are the only differences, the only things that I'm going to change. So in this menu here, I'd certainly suggest turning the vibration down just a little bit. It might make a difference for you to be more accurate. The speed sensitivity, the higher you put this, as in going this way with it, the slower it'll start to turn. And if you put it all the way at 100, it'll almost be like turning like this. It just doesn't. It's so slow. So where I've got it here is, it's enough to get the lock on the wheel, and it's fairly smooth. The steering filter will be, if I put it all the way to the 100, as I turn the wheel like this, as soon as I let my finger off the control pad, it sort of comes back to straight like this. It's just too slow. So the steering filter is how quickly it comes back to centre. Now I've got this near the end because I want it to be smooth coming out of the corners. And if I quickly whip the wheel to the other side, it generally moves quite quickly. The steer speed, I've got this all the way down to 1. I don't particularly know what that does. Didn't really feel much difference when I adjusted that, and the gamma doesn't make much difference, but the steering assist, I'd definitely have that on. Doesn't feel like it does a great deal while it's on, but it must be doing something, because when I used it without it, it feels terrible. Assistance, gearbox, I'd have that set to manual, because the automatic gearbox just doesn't seem to slow the car down quick enough, and it's always in the wrong gear when you seem to be coming into corners, and it's always very nice to be choosing the gear as you go into the corner. It just slows the car down a little bit. And steering control, I'd definitely turn that off. It just hinders the car too much. It'll always be trying to reduce the power if the car's out of shape, or it'll be stopping you putting the acceleration on if it feels the car's out of shape again. It does feel much easier to catch a slide as well with the control pad for some reason. I'll just have a quick drink. Now, one of the other things that kind of annoys me, and it doesn't annoy me, is how time seems to pause sometimes when you come into this. So we've got 48 minutes and 12 seconds on, and the track map is all paused. It's kind of annoying to some degree. But it does work well sometimes, especially when you're talking over things and we're not losing too much time. The tyres aren't getting much colder. So here we are then, control pad in hand. I'm using the top buttons to accelerate and brake. And I'm shifting with these buttons. Now the only other thing that probably worthwhile doing, traction control 1, not sure if I can change that. Return to garage. Let's just options, controls. It would be nice if I could choose my pit speed limiter with the B button as well, and something else with the Y button. So the Y button is changing my traction control, which I would usually use. I'm not going to use that in this at all. So we could use that for something else. Maybe we could use it for maybe ignition. might be useful. So I'll put the traction control then back to 8. So we can get the pit speed limiter on and off now. Close that MFD, just have that on. So we're steering, as you can see, with the control pad. Just changing gears. And I wanted to set a lap with the wheel so that I know how much slower I am with my sector times using the control pad. So these are the bits that I feel are harder to be accurate. So just slight movements with the joystick. But I still think I could enjoy this game with a control pad. If ever I'm in a situation where I can't use the wheel, I'd be happy coming back and playing this just like this. Bit of opposite lock. Tyres just aren't up to temperature just yet. Very hard to be accurate. So really is a case of using very little inputs, especially on turn-ins like that. So braking again, full whack. I'm trying to just freewheel through there a little bit. I'll point another thing out, I think, that I forgot to mention. But the brake pressure is set to 90. You can hear I'm just kind of locking up there. Oh. Very hard to be accurate. You can see the time I'm losing. Not that it's been the best of laps. I think I was setting like 151s, almost into the 150s yesterday. A little bit deep there. So nearly 3 seconds off my lap time with a wheel. See if we can better that. Not the best line. It's so hard just to put the car exactly where you want it. Especially when you're trying to brake and do the gears and turn the car all with these little sticks. Not too much slower there, maybe lost 2 or 3 tenths. Too much turning. You see we're scrubbing the tyres a lot more. The temperature in the tyres is probably going way up. Because we're always turning in with almost like maximum turning angle. The tyres getting yellow. Really want to still be hitting the 27.8s. Oh. So nearly 2 seconds then off. Shaved a second off that last one. 52.1. Not bad with the controller, I wouldn't say. Oh. Almost as quick as with a wheel. Just 3 tenths, 4 tenths. Losing a bit of time under acceleration there. Oh, terrible. Not too bad there, 1.2 seconds off someone using a wheel. It almost feels like we might be able to bring that down a bit. Maybe that's what's hindering us off the corner. So almost out of fuel as well. So not too bad. Half a second through there, seem to be losing each lap. Very scruffy. So 1.6 seconds. I think I could definitely better that. But yeah, I just wanted to prove really that this game isn't that bad using a control pad. Let's get a little bit of this action. So yeah, just I have tried a number of circuits. Obviously Monza is a much easier circuit than most, but I think at Watkins Glen I was still maybe 1:48, so still maybe 2 seconds slower, and I only did a number of laps there. But definitely key areas to look at. Like I said, the brake pressure. We'll have a quick look at it. If I can think about how to exit this. There we go. A quick look at the setup again there, because I did miss that. So we just return to the garage, into the setup, and this one here, the brake power. Bring that down to 90, maybe 92. It just eases out at the last bit of the braking. It stops the wheels locking up too much. That was one of the main things. So try the setup. See what you think if you're using a control pad. You could probably run some really unorthodox setups because you're using a control pad. I think a lot of it is the sliding around that the car's doing, a lot more sliding around than normal, because your inputs are so much like, you know, they're like quick inputs using the control pad. But I really did also enjoy initially trying to get used to this, understanding what the car was doing. I came all the way out and sat in the horrible sort of chase cam looking down at the car, but getting back in the car, it felt more natural. The braking points felt more natural, because obviously if you're kind of looking down on the car and you're looking from the in-car view, where my braking point I would normally think about as we're sort of driving along and the Arco barriers sort of coming alongside, I kind of gauge where it's in line with myself. That's where I need to be braking. But when you're in the in-car view, you need to take that braking point into account, that maybe it's a little bit more in front of the car. I felt like I was missing my braking points, but coming back into the car, I felt like I could drive it much better sat in the in-car view again. So that felt much better for me. Maybe you could change your camera angles a little bit more, I don't know. But I just wanted to run through what I think are the best settings for the game itself using a control pad. And I think that you can still have some good fun using the control pad with this game. Maybe some of the lap times are better than people using a wheel. So as you could see there, I think maybe I'm a second off using the control pad as what I'm using with the wheel, and I'm sure there are plenty of drivers out there using a control pad that are faster than guys using a wheel. So this game is definitely still playable using a control pad, 100%. So if you're thinking you can't play this game with a controller, I think you're totally wrong. You definitely enjoy this game, and I still had some good races the other night online using a control pad. So don't discount those guys that are, I won't say unfortunate enough, that just don't have a wheel. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's physical, I don't know, but I still think for people that think this is a console game and it's a sim racing game, you can still enjoy it. As you can see there, get in the car sideways, still have some fun using a control pad. But thanks for watching, thanks for sticking with the channel. Obviously I do work for a living, so I'm not putting content out every week. This isn't a job for me, it's just a hobby, it's a bit of fun. It's me enjoying sim racing along with the rest of you. So if you have got any comments, please do leave them in the comments of the video, leave them on the Facebook group. I'll always try and get back to people as best I can, trying to help you with anything I can do. So if you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, we still seem to be in the, it's 4,380. We seem to have been there for probably about a year now. So if you haven't yet subscribed and you find yourself at my channel from time to time, please do hit that subscribe button. You never know, I might feature something worth watching one day. But until then, ciao for now.